feel like if I work too hard and I work well, I deserve to reward myself with certain things. So we go to where the current location is and we look at it. It must be the most irresponsible thing I've ever done in my life. But I signed the lease on the first day. If you have believability and if you have a product that you understand to sell, you can always use other people's money. You don't need yours.
Hey guys, it is night after Christmas. Not really. It's been like a couple of days since Christmas. I think we're 2 days to the New Year's now. It's 29th. This is Financially Incorrect. My name is Barrack. I hope your holiday is going great. For those who are still working, it sucks to be you, but I don't know. Maybe get another job or something. I don't know. But for those guys who are on holiday, I hope that's going well. I hope you've had a great Christmas. I hope you get great gifts. I hope someone gave you money, as a good Christmas gift, because that would work best for me. Today, we're wrapping up the year. So I'm not going to say Happy New Year's, but I hope you have fantastic New Year plans. And I think we got the ultimate guest to conclude this year and to conclude this year in a festive way. We have, I'll introduce him and see if you can, I guess, in the comments, guess his name before I say it. He is a businessman, he's an entrepreneur, and I've given him a new name today as a local man, premium Gen Z cult hero, Antony Owich, the owner of B&D and Manhattan Bar.
Yes.
Welcome to Financially Incorrect.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah.
I think, first of all, for everyone that's watching, happy holidays. Merry post-Christmas, is that a thing? And an early Happy New Year, I think, for me. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. When we are shooting this, B&D are contemplating a few plans for New Year's.
Yeah.
But just, be ready. Be financially ready and be socially ready.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have some fun stuff for you guys in this week leading up to New Year's itself. Yeah.
So we're looking at least with the week leading on to New Year's, is just having like a festive sort of like mood with different DJs on different days, different drink offers for you to come enjoy. I mean, we've had such a long year, and I think whatever you do, whether you're a businessman, whether you're employed, there's so many different situations you've handled. So December is the one time in the year you can really just have a seat back and just enjoy and just keep it merry with your friends and family.
Yeah. Okay. Great. We've had a brief discussion before we got into this, and there's a few things I want to get into just based off of that. But first, let me ask you: are you looking forward to any Christmas? By the time we're shooting this, are you looking forward to any Christmas gifts this year? Do you think you're getting any Christmas gifts?
Yeah, 100%. I always throw like little hints with my Instagram stories and everything like that. So anyone that's special in my life, just keep a close eye to my stories. So I'll always post like subtle things. I'll tell you what I like and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I never get those gifts that I want. So for me, it's either the wrong people in my life or people just don't really care. They just look at my stories. They're like, oh, we don't know what he wants, But yeah, I'm really looking forward to what the special people in my life get me this year.
Yeah.
Some shoes or a new car would be nice. So
a new car, a new car would be nice.
For sure, 100%.
Oh gosh, okay. So we'll follow up. We'll get Chico to follow up with you, and then we'll put it up on stories to see if Anthony's friends got him what he wanted for Christmas this year. Man, okay, all right. So before we got into this discussion, right? Before we started this podcast, Anthony and I and Collins and Justin and Chico by extension were discussing, or Anthony was giving us his theory around what the most valuable thing he has right now is, and why he would not invest in a relationship at this particular point in time, and it has a financial implication.
No, 100%.
So yeah, so just give it to us again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the most important asset anyone has, right, is their time, right? And for me, that's why I'll always be picky if you're 5 minutes late for a meeting, because you're really eating into my resource, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're an hour, I don't even think you'll find me there.
Yeah.
So the most valuable asset you can ever have is time, right? Money, from where I sit, is you can make it, you can lose it, you could always make it back, right? When you look at other assets like real estate, you can hold it, disposing of it might become a bit difficult, but it's a good asset to have. But the most important one for me is time. And to get back to your, I think, second question about that connection with relationships is how I look at relationship is that they're so engaging. They require a lot of your time, energy, and effort, and also monetary resources, right? Let's say, for example, oh, you want to go on holiday and things like that. It requires money, right? But I have a very sturdy routine that I stick to every day, which includes waking up at 5, hitting the gym. By that time, I mean reading newspapers, getting into meetings, yada yada yada. So there's a very rigorous routine I follow, and the reason why I think I haven't prioritized, I think, relationships is because it really eats into that routine. But there's ways where you can rejig the routine and incorporate these special people into your life. And that's what I'm really trying to work on now because I'm not getting any younger.
Right.
And I think with the sort of like challenges I face on a day-to-day, monthly basis, you want to get home as well and be like, oh, you've had such a long day. Do you want tea? Do you want a massage? Things like that. So that's my thought process when it comes to that. Yeah.
Yeah, long and short of it. So money is a factor there.
Money is definitely a factor with anything, and I think it comes back to some of the traumas. I'll give you a story about growing up. As African kids growing up, it gets to a point where you're dating, yes, but you're scared to tell your folks, oh, I'm seeing this and that person.
I mean, how old are you? Is it teenage, late teens?
No, not.
I mean, when you're giving this story, when
At that
when this story
point,
is happening,
I was around 23.
Okay.
But I still wasn't comfortable telling my folks, yo, listen, I'm dating this and that person. Right. So when they did find out, so I'm Luo, right? The person I was seeing was Kikuyu, right? And there's sort of like traditional stereotypes according to those two relationships, right? And I remember at that particular point, my dad was like, oh, why don't you look for a nice Luo girl, whatever, they know how to take care of the home and everything. So at that point, I'm telling him, why not Kikuyu? That's where my heart is.
Yeah.
You know what his answer was? They love money. That was his answer.
Yeah.
They love money. But understanding that from his point of view and to this day and age, and I was having a conversation with one of the people that advises me, and they're like, and I gave them the story, they're like, those are traumas that were brought up by people of a certain age, but also look at it from this point. It could also be beneficial because when we say Kikuyus understand money, they know how to deal with money, they know how to manage money, they know how to get money, they know how to, let's say you're earning X amount, it doesn't shock her, They're sort of used to it. People from that particular tribe have open conversation about Besha, right? For my tribe, we are traditionally, what's the term? Even growing up, for example, for me, the dream for my folks was become a lawyer, become a doctor, become a professor.
Right.
So we are academics, like by tradition. So
Right.
I think looking at it in this day and age, I think it would be such a beautiful synergy, where you have a female or a partner that understands finances and money. So there's different ways where you can look at it positively.
So I hear that. I have a question for you on that because when I'm from Western, my dad's Luya, my mom's Luo.
Yeah.
So I guess I do identify with a
Deep
little of
in
that.
section,
rooted. But I have a question because I mean, so within the Luo community, of course, we have the Jacoms, right?
Yeah,
We have the flashy. So, for example, I used to give this story about my mom. My mom has two phones, and she got them like really early on, when phones weren't even a thing. So when I'd call her, and she wouldn't pick up. So if I met her later in the night, I'd be like, "Mom, I had to call you, and you didn't pick up." Most people would be like, "Oh, did you try to call me on my Safaricom line or my Zain line?"
Yeah.
No, she'd be like, "Did you like call me on my iPhone?" Or did you call me on my... And I would always be like, "I don't know."
Why?
Like,
Why?
I don't know the difference.
Yeah.
But my question is, based off of what you're talking about in terms of the I guess the possible tribal entrenchment in ideologies, but there's the Jacom, there's the Luo spendthrift who's there are these memes and these videos that we see online of a Luo boyfriend walks in, and like, this is where you're living. Nah, we need to move you. Yeah, what's the, I guess in your experience, what's the relation to that?
I don't know, to be honest, because I compare it to. Let me move further away from the Kenyan market. I would compare it to Nigerians, right? Nigerians are the most extravagant people. But it comes, so someone broke it down for me. They're like, listen, we are 200 million plus people in this country. You have to find a way of standing out. That's why we are proud, we are unapologetic, for example, and we will literally treat you like you are the world to us, for example. So even whenever I go out and I see how Nigerians are partying, how they're having a good time, I sort of understand and I don't judge them as well. Bring it back to Luos and our culture in terms of being spendthrift, being flamboyant. I think there's a dotted line to that as well. In terms of we are proud people, naturally. We are people that want to, so a lot of those that I know would go above and beyond to study and everything like that. And we have a certain inbuilt worth ethic. So I feel like if I work too hard and I work well, I deserve to reward myself with certain things. And that's how I can really bring it back. Because a good example is, I would love to be one of those Luos, to be honest, but there's certain things that I feel I deserve and I talk myself out of it, you know, and it comes back from a fear of X amount for this and that. I could use it to buy a piece of land somewhere, you know, and that's the comparison that society will always bring back to you. So ultimately, if you think you can work hard for a certain thing or your worth ethic allows you to buy a certain thing, my advice would be go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, I see it. And by the way, as I said my story about my mom, like she's the most humble person. And I know that when she does it or when she says it, like it's not coming from a prideful.
Because it is an
place.
iPhone.
Yeah,
at
it's
the
just
end of the day, you know?
at the end of the day, it's an iPhone.
It's
You
an
know?
iPhone or Samsung. It is. You know?
Anyway, all right. Let's get into it. Would you say that you grew up in a privileged background? And my second question to that would be, why would you say that you grew up in a privileged background?
So I'd say I had a mix of both, and it's such a blessing, and I'm very grateful for it. Being able to understand how being privileged is, and also the other side of life. So my dad used to work for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right here, and part of that role is you get posted to foreign countries, and part of that is international school, it's driver and everything like that. So you're in class with people from different parts of the world. So it opens up your brain, opens up your eyes to a lot of different things. And then fast forward when you come back here, you're back to the normal, so like Kenyan life. So the difference between that and a lot of people is that I got to see a different country, got to grow up in a different country. And then I got to come back here. But on coming back here, in a normal situation is that you're back here for 3 years, 4 years, then you're posted again. So that's a healthy cycle. So that privileged life, you can still maintain it. Mine worked very differently because it took 15 plus years for him to get posted again. So getting to a point where your salary is your government salary and then you have a foreign allowance, which is significant. And then coming back here where your allowance is gone. First, you have to readjust your life. That's one. So we moved from international school driver and everything like that to a house where he bought in Embakasi, Nyayo Estate, right? So that's where I grew up predominantly.
Right.
But at that point, he was still financing a mortgage, right? And I remember one day he came to me, he's like, with all your school fees, because we're 4 kids, all your school fees, the mortgage, and with my limited salary, I can't sustain this life no more. And he told us, we're gonna have to move again and rent this house out so it can pay for itself. So we moved from Embakasi to Tena Estate. Anyone that knows Tena Estate, bro, it's quite different. Now Estate, you know, you have your paved roads. It's a community and everything like that. Tena Estate is, you know when people talk about difference between apartments and flats. Tena Estate, it's flats.
It's a flat. It's not an apartment.
But I'm also very grateful for that journey of my life because first time I went to Tena Estate, you know, coming from Egypt and you go to Tena Estate, you still have that Barbie sort of element.
Right,
you know?
right.
So going to Tena Estate was something else. First week I was there, I'm just walking, nice shirt, nice jeans and everything. I meet, you know, when you see memes of people walking in a certain way, you have to be alert. So I didn't know that. So at that particular point, they jacked my shirt. They took my shirt.
How?
So I was with a friend of mine.
Yeah.
I was with a friend of mine who grew up there.
Yeah.
They took my shirt, ran away with my shirt. My friend also ran away because it was like 4 or 5 guys. something like that. So I was like, okay, calm. But that was now my new
No,
reality.
no, sorry. What do you mean by they took your shirt?
thugged me.
Like, no, like, so the guy came and he was like, remove your shirt.
So it's
Right.
you can either cooperate or decide, okay, listen,
Right,
we're
right,
gonna go
right.
toe to toe.
Right, right.
At that point, I didn't have the skills to go toe to toe, so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, fine.
So you just
they
took
go
off your
with
shirt,
it. So
right.
that became my new reality. So there were skills that I developed there, being aware, understanding the streets and everything like that. So at that point, I joined Aquinas High School. Aquinas High School is on Jogoro, national school now
Yeah.
and everything like that. But I remember even when I joined that school, you know, when you get that letter, acceptance letter, it's like Aquinas High School. I'm like, no, it said St. Thomas Aquinas High School. So in my head, I'm like, oh, this is suburbs, everything, nini. So we're driving. So I don't know where it is. Then I see my dad like turn in Jogoro. I'm like, bro, what are we going to see?
Yeah.
He's like, the school is here.
Yeah.
So I entered the school. I mean, that was a whole other thing. Learning and being there. I mean, you're there with, I think, normal people from different families that have literally grown up in Kenya and understood the struggle of life and everything like that. So that was quite eye-opening. It really built me to a certain extent. There's certain things I see in the street now, even when people try to be smart with me and everything, I'm like, bro, I wish you knew, you know? So I went through that, passed really well, got to uni, went to Nairobi University. I studied economics and statistics. Very gratefully, I think my mom at this point left us, went to the US to support the family because things were tight. So from that lifestyle to this, now things are really tight. So the only way they could think about in the conversation they were having with my dad is, I'm going to go to the US, I'm going to support the family. So they managed to take me through uni. But still through uni, they paid school fees. I used to get my allowance and everything, but it still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So I had to develop other ways of making money. So what did I do? I used to go to Gikomba, right? And I'd get, you know, there's an article in the newspaper that says from odd jobs to bar owner.
Right,
I mean, I was like, okay, it's an odd job, but it's different, right?
Right.
So I used to go there, get like cool leather jackets, wear them to class, and in class, one or two people, at least in a week, someone would get 2 of them off of me. And I was able to sustain a certain life, right? At least on a weekend, I'd be able to go out. And that's now when I started really getting into nightlife, like understanding bars, understanding restaurants and things like that. So post-uni, I really didn't know what to do. And at some point, the first job I could get was with some guy that knew my dad. No. I was an intern at Kenya Mission to the United Nations through a connect for sure.
Right.
So I was an intern.
Right.
So we started off as like 6 intern. And for me, I used to go for meetings at the United Nations. Now looking back, I understand how much of a privilege that is. But at that point, it just seemed like I'm here for
to have an internship at the UN.
It was a 6 months internship. And my allowance then was 4,000 shillings.
From your family or
No, from the
mission, right?
This was
right.
my allowance, 4,000 shillings. And the beauty about that is that you'd get trips here and there, like a 4-day trip to Samburu or something. You'd get like extra allowances. But within that 4,000 shillings, I would wait at the end of the month. Bro, I was planning for the 4,000 shillings. I was like, 1,000 is bus fare. 1,500 I will save. 1,500 was I don't know for what. Everyone else that we're interning with, that 4,000 they'd get, where are we going to? They would blow it in one night, you know? So I think understanding finance and just trying to be financially responsible started even with that minimum amount which I was earning, which was 4,000 bob. So I did that, finished, and then I met this lady who was, we started seeing each other. And through that, she was like, there's this opportunity at Chase Bank. They're hiring. Why not try? So I joined Chase Bank.
Was this when Chase Bank was Chase Bank?
When Chase Bank was Chase Bank.
You know, that time they say Chase Bank used to hire very pretty,
it was
very pretty ladies,
else.
and got many.
It was one of the, I won't say motivating factors, but I mean going for an interview there. It's like going for any other interview. But the fact that I'd walk in and there was like beautiful people walking.
Do you know what? I genuinely like to know if it was an intentional marketing strategy, because I know a lot of male entrepreneurs who opened accounts at at Chase Bank, and they had relationship managers, very attractive.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
yeah.
don't know if there was a strategy, but I know it worked. That's the one thing.
Yeah,
I knew
yeah.
it worked. So I got a job as a customer service agent, handling cards, customer queries, and all these things. So I did that for a while.
How much were they paying you at Chase Bank?
This was a bump up from
Yeah.
4,000 bump. My net salary then was like 32,000 something thereabout. So I was balling kidogo, you
Yeah.
know. So I could afford to come with my car. No, not my car. Let me not lie.
Yeah.
My dad's car on weekends.
Yeah.
Like a Friday, Saturday, I could afford to drive, put my foot and everything like
Right.
that. I was sour. Through that salary, at least working in a bank, you're able to access financing at very minimal interest rates. So that's one of the perks of working in the bank. So post that, there's a position they were offering in treasury. I applied for it, then I took it. So I moved from customer service to treasury. At that point, I was still like, we're reviewing the new salary policy. So nothing changed, right? But treasury was so eye-opening because you get to trade every day. Someone calls you, what's the rate? You negotiate. And so it built a lot of the skills that I have today. But I didn't do that for a very long time. I think it was less than 6 months. And then that's when one of the people I used to work with, they're like, there's this company that's looking for a brand ambassador. I think you're a good fit. I mean, you like going out. You're very social in the bank and everything. You know how to talk to people. Why not apply? So I applied for the job, went through the most strenuous interview process in my life, and I got the job. So this was Jameson brand ambassador for East Africa. So that's when
When you say strenuous interview process, what does it entail? Like, what did they take you through?
5 interviews. So I think the first one there's just the application process. There was a video you needed to do. There was the first level of interviews where you meet, I think, HR. Then the next one you meet the brand owners. And the last one, when they narrowed it down to 5 people, it's now the entire executive marketing committee for the company. So it was a lot of people. And they were like, okay, there's always the norm. So we were all, the 5 of us, seated in a room. And then there's like the board where we're supposed to present. So they gave us, how I got the job is, so I was exceptional throughout the whole process, but everyone in that room was exceptional. So they said, who wants to go first and tell us why you deserve the job? I told them I'll go last because I wanted to understand what all these, everyone's strength is.
Right.
There was a guy that woke up. He was like, I mean, those exposed guys that went to good schools and everything. So everyone had their own strength. So I realized, man, if I go with that CV thing, it's not going to work, man. Because they're smarter guys. Guys have gone to better schools. They're guys that speak better English. So I picked on every single gap that everyone had. And then I compiled my presentation. So I stood up. I was like, listen, I've worked in a corporate setting. I'm well-educated. Same as everyone in this room. So when it comes to beating the bare minimum of what you're looking for, we've all met it. What's going to set me apart? So I gave the story of my dad working for foreign service. So he was an ambassador representing a country. Not an ambassador, but working in a mission where you represent the country, right? So I told him, growing up, number one, I always wanted to represent either my country or a brand, right? So Jameson would be a good fit. So I started talking about you have to walk like the brand, talk like the brand, sell the brand, own the brand, things like that. And they were sold. And for me, I have this skill where I can leave a meeting now, I know I got the deal or not. That particular one, I knew I got the job. It was just formality. I knew I got the job. So call me later, got the job. We agree on a salary, whatever. At this point, there's a salary. They tell me we're going to fly you to Ireland and everything like that. You're going to get training. So I lived in Ireland for a while. That was also another culture shock. I was living in a hotel the whole time I was there.
How long were you there for?
Like 2 months. Yeah, and I was in and out of Ireland. So you go interact with people from different countries and stuff like that. And I did that job for 2 years. So earning the salary. Oh, here's where now things started changing.
Right.
So there's a new salary. There's a car benefit where they've given me a car. So I'm rolling in town and everything like that. There's an allowance for nightlife, right? So,
A nightlife allowance.
yeah, you could go out and everything.
How much?
like
How
that.
much is a nightlife allowance? Around how
So
much?
here's the thing. I
Yeah.
think they played me.
Yeah.
So the previous guys used to have a credit card. Me, my limit was like 50 racks or something like that.
Per month?
Per month.
Oh, right. Okay.
I mean, it's
So it's
credit
about
card
12.
versus-
Yeah. About 12, 5, 13
yeah,
Gs
you could
per,
go out
per,
and be like, I'm the guy,
Yeah.
and everything like that.
Yeah.
So, but what the role also taught me was discipline responsibility as well, but discipline at the core of it. Because one of the core things we learn at Jameson is like, okay, you're going to be out. The product basically moves in nightclubs, wines and spirits, etc., etc. So for you to push it, you have to be in these spots a lot. But one of the things that they taught us was you don't have to drink every day. Half of the time, people ask me, how are you able to be at your spot at night and tomorrow you're up at 5? I told them, listen, sometimes I will drink. Sometimes you come to me and my glass, it's apple juice. And that's the honest truth. You have to have hacks, you know? Because if I'm like the guy that I'm intoxicated every day, you can't, you know? You really can't.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things they really taught us, discipline. And also just being able to say no to yourself and to people that offer you certain beverages. Because you got to know, what am I doing tomorrow? They expect delivery at the end of the day. You're out, yes, but we expect you to deliver parts of the role.
At this time, when you're doing the Jameson role, ambassador role, have you moved out of home? Are you living on your own? Are they paying you enough to be able to get that done?
I move out. So I moved from... No, at this point, things were looking up. So we moved from Tenor to a house that my dad owned in Donholm, somewhere in Donholm, Greenfields, right? So I'm like, now I have a car. Our office was in Riverside. So I'm like driving from Doni, Greenfields to Riverside. It's far. So me and my boy who used to live in Buru, he starts working at Nation Media. So we agree, we're going to get a 2-bedroom house in Kile. So we co-share a house. So that was amazing. So we decide, here's the partnership agreement. He furnishes the living room. I furnish the kitchen. And then we furnish our individual rooms.
Okay.
So we lived together for like 2 years. So yes, I moved out. Now things are looking up. I move out and everything like that. I do the Jameson role for 2 years, still living in Kile for 2 years. Then I started becoming uncomfortable in the job. After 2 years, it's like, okay, what next? What am I going to do?
Was there an increment after the first year?
Very slight improvement, like 10% or 7%, something like that. Nothing significant. Right?
Okay.
And then I become uncomfortable. But the uncomfort does not come from money. It comes from leadership. They change a lot of structures and everything like that. And I didn't feel comfortable anymore. So one of the people that hired me moved to another company, Carlsberg. And once they moved to Carlsberg, they were looking for people. So I joined Carlsberg from their brand building team.
Okay.
So we were responsible for growing. There's a beer called Tuborg.
Yeah.
So Tuborg was supposed to come and rival Tusker in the market, which it did to an extent. You'd go to a lot of bars. It's like Tusker, Tuborg, almost at par, right, in terms of sales. So I did that for, at that point, increase in salary.
Yeah. So where are you now? Are you the 200 range, 300 range? Where are you playing at now?
At a point, I'm at 2-something.
2-something, okay.
Yeah, I think net, something like that.
Okay.
So okay, but certain benefits are taken off, right? So my drinking allowance, kidogo, because now you're moving from spirits to beers, right?
Okay.
And then my car, they take it because I left. Now, this other company, because they're still setting up structures. It's a new company and everything like that. So they tell us, our budget for cars is what it's. So at Jameson, I used to drive an X-Trail. And then at this point, they moved me to a Wing Road. A Nissan
Wing Road, right.
But my take home is better, so I'm not thinking about the benefit. I'm like, at the end of the day, I have a car. I can move. It's a function. It's a tool of the trade. I'm working, right? So I'm like, it's fine. I'll do it, right? So I do that role for 2 years. And I remember we used to laugh so much with me and my colleagues. It was me and 2 other guys that were in charge of now building Tuborg ground up. And we all had Wing Roads. And there's this one guy that was able to tell them, listen, this amount of money that you pay this supplier for a Wing Road, can I get another car? So this guy gets like a Premio or something souped up really nice. I'm like, shit, So at that point, it works, but it opens my eyes that you can really renegotiate this thing.
Sorry, another question. So what exactly is your job at that point? Are you still like at the popular places trying to push the product, trying to get people to buy the product?
So at this point, I'm like an account manager / brand
ambassador.
Yeah, so let's say that. So my role is I had a universe of X amount of bars, let's say 100 bars. My job was to grow the Tuborg numbers in all these bars to rival Tusker.
Okay.
That was the whole thing. And also I was in charge of third space events. So there was partnerships with Koroga Festival, Blankets and Wine at some point and things like that. So that was my main role there.
Okay. And another question on that, how do you actually get that done? So let's say, we're in this right here is a club setting, right?
Yeah.
And we're all drinking Tuskers. How do you come in and begin to
yeah.
get me to even think about, oh yeah, maybe the next time I want to buy a drink, I'll
It
I'll go
starts
to
with a lot
Book.
of things, right?
Yeah.
So there has to be a connect. I think at the core of it, the people that are in bars every day are the staff. So it starts with staff training, staff incentives, making sure they're on your side in terms of if a customer asks for, because customer you go nipatie beer, they won't specify, then the waiter or whatever at that point knows if I sell a 2 book, I'm getting 20 book back, as an example, right? They're highly likely to propose
The
your
comment,
drink.
right.
So that was one, right? The small things like visibility. You walk into a bar, you'll see a light saying 2 book. It plays with the psychology, right? There's the price that you get on the table, the little tent card
Right,
thing, right?
right.
That plays with your psychology as well. So there's all these things. And even me being in a bar, for example, I'd see like a group, because I had my allowance, and this
Right.
allowance was also functional as a tool of trade, right? So I'd be there, I see guys drinking, or guys just walking. I'm like, give those guys like a row of 2 books. They start with 2 book, they love it. Then that will be their drink for the whole night.
Right.
And then there's also things like weekend activations. We align, I'm gonna pay for your DJ as the club, whatever, run 2 book and everything. So those were predominantly the strategies we use, at
Right,
least
right.
in the bar.
Right.
You know? Yeah, so those are strategies. So that I did that for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And at this point in time, what are you doing with the money that you're making? Because it seems like
Bro.
all the partying that you're doing, you're being given money to party technically. So other than paying the rent, furnishing the apartment, paying fuel.
My money
yeah.
habits were bad. It actually took me back to something. So one thing happened. You remember when we were living together?
Yeah.
And the kitchen stuff were mine, the living room stuff
Was
was mine.
his, yeah.
Coming to think of it, I was not saving. It was basically pension. I was not saving. My saving habits were bad. So one day, my housemate comes to me. He's like, I gave notice to the landlord. We're supposed to move out in about a month or something like that, bro. When he said that, he had Jipangad. He already bought his kitchen stuff, because kitchen was mine. So he'd already bought his kitchen stuff, identified a new house, everything. He knew where he's gonna go, right? Me, I'm on ropes. Literally, I'm on ropes. So I'm trying to think. Okay, so I'm still earning a good salary
Right.
at that point at Jameson, but when someone tells you for you to move into another house, you need to give me, is it 2 months rent, 1 month
Yeah.
deposit,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
I didn't have it. Because at this point, I'm living in Kile, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sharing, right? So for me to get either a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom by myself, it's quite a substantial amount of money,
Yeah.
which I did not have.
Yeah.
So what do? I tell my old man, listen, this is the guy, he's moving and everything like that. My dad tells me, even when you moved out initially, I did not tell you to move out. That's the honest truth. So you're welcome here. So I moved back to the crib for a month. And I told him a maximum 3 months. I went back, most humbling experience I've ever had in my life, first
Yeah.
of all.
Why was it humbling? I mean, because you still had a
No.
job, you still had
Yeah,
money, you
because-
still had income.
But I was, in that point, quote unquote, I was my own man. I moved to Kile, I'm living and everything like that. And then to move back to your folks' house, humbling, right? Salary and everything is still
Did you
there.
tell your friends?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they knew. They knew. I never hide stuff.
Okay.
And that's the whole thing about I never hide stuff. So they knew. So I moved back and remember 3 months. I was like 3
Yeah.
months. I moved out in a month. I was able to gather stuff, paid a deposit. So this is from Kile. I went to South B, dope ass apartment online. Dope ass apartment. Like, I think best apartment I've ever lived in, to be honest. Really modern, really nice, elevator and everything like that. But it was a lot. For South B, it was a lot of money, but it was nice. So at this point, I'm still working at Carlsberg. So things are looking up, and now I'm like saving has to be factored in.
Yeah.
Like, things can hit the fan. So at this point, I buy living room stuff, kitchen stuff was still mine and everything like that. And there's one day I'm just like, because our office at this point was in Kilimani. I'm driving from South B to Kilimani. I'm like, bro, this is far. And South B I was paying a lot. Like, the amount of rent I was paying there, I could get a house in Kilimani or Kilelesho. So one day I'm just driving. I drive to this apartment. I ask this guy, how much is a house here? Within my budget. And I tell him, okay, I'll move in. So that's how I move back now to my own house. I'm not sharing. I'm not splitting anything. I own the house. It's a little cute place, but I'm paying for it, right? At this point, I'm still saving and everything like that. Still working for Carlsberg. Then EABL comes knocking. They're like, we're looking to set up a luxury team in terms of pushing their luxury spirits portfolio. We think you're one of the guys that could really do us justice. And I signed the contract.
A question. these are three different brands that you've
Yeah.
worked for, right?
Yeah.
One question is on authenticity, on how do I see you in
Yeah.
in a Jameson cap, then I see
Yeah.
you in a Carlsberg cap. Now
Yeah.
I'm gonna see you in an EABL cap.
Yeah.
How do you keep that authenticity with whomever it is that you're talking to? Do you ever actually truly believe in the product that you represented during that time?
I do 100%. I think that the core of it is that all these brands have different target markets. So, for example, Jameson at that point was a lot of the younger clientele. I was young as well, and it was easier to sell it. And I really bought into that brand at that time.
Yeah.
Tuborg was exciting. It was a new brand and everything like that. It was a different category,
Yeah.
right? EABL, I was moving to a whole other category where it's the high-end people, right? So I also needed to learn, be trained, and everything like that. And they really had to set me up to be comfortable interacting with your high net worth individual, if I can call them that. Because from dress code, I had to wear blazers every day. But it wasn't the company directive. It's just, you're in a meeting at Mudaga Country Club. It's just how you show up. You're in a meeting at Current Club. You're in a meeting at Capital Club. You're in a meeting and you're meeting the director at 1824, as an example. So you're meeting really high net worth people. And at that point, you really had to show up the right way. They've set you up, you're earning X amount. At that point, they really set me up with a car. They gave me a double cabin, like a new Ford. It's like literally I had to go pick, and these are some of the privileges I had to go through in life. But at that moment, I never appreciated it. They just never seemed like things that moved me. But now looking back, like these guys told me, go to CMA on Mombasa Road, I think, CMA or something. One of these car
CMC.
people. CMC. Pick a brand new Ford Ranger.
Right.
I picked it, like even now looking back, I'm just like, shit, But I had to go pick it. But in the moment, just because I look at it like a tool of trade. So it never gets into my head. I know if I leave this job today, I don't have it.
Yeah.
So even to bring that to perspective, all those years, I never really owned a car.
Yeah.
Cars always came as an employment benefit.
Right.
So I had the Ford Ranger. At that point, I have a credit card, so I can go out and everything like that. I'm hosting people. So it was good. So I did that for 2 years.
So, but job description is pretty much the same thing. Trying to push just a more prestigious brand to a more prestigious market.
Exactly. At this point,
Right.
I have a better role. It's a senior manager role.
Okay.
I'm in charge of a lot. I'm in charge of 2 distributors. I'm in charge of a universe of luxury accounts, like 100 bars. I control a certain budget. I could go to a bar and tell them, listen, I'm going to give you a year contract. This is how the contract looks like. This is incentives. I'll pay for your DJ. It was significant, right?
Right.
Coming to think, in the moment in my head, it was just a job, But coming to think of it now, I was in charge of a lot, the distributors. I was in charge of bars, their budgets and everything like that, which was, looking back, seems like it's a lot.
Yeah.
But throughout this entire journey, there was something that was happening subconsciously through my travels, through my interaction with different bars, the things that I was picking up, knowingly or not knowingly, right? Things like access to sales from bars, aesthetics in bars, how to relate with customers, just bars that have different looks and feels and things like that. And I remember I'd get to different places, I'd take pictures. I had a folder on my phone that was called Bars and Restaurants. So it's just different pictures that inspired me throughout the whole period that I worked for all these alcohol companies. And towards my final days at EABL, I set up, we were in an investment group.
Okay.
Like a chama, a
Right.
male chama.
Right.
And our contribution per month we were 6 guys. Our contribution per month, we were contributing like 15 Gs each. We were 6 guys. So it was significant. So guys are contributing. So when
Where was it? Who was keeping the money? Who was the custodian?
we set up a bank.
Okay.
Set up a bank. 3
Joint account.
signatories. Yeah. 3 signatories, and everyone was just contributing. We'd have like once a quarter meeting to try to see, okay, what do we want to do with this money? And with most, I don't know whether it's most chamas, we didn't know what to do, right? So I come up to them, I'm like, listen, I've always wanted to set up a bar. Why don't we use this money to set up the bar? Then at that point, I got this little nice, cute spot in Hurlingham. And my plan was to set up a nice, cute cocktail bar. I'll be going to ABL during the day. I come in the evening, and I piga hesabus. Piga hesabus with my barman. I go sleep.
Right.
That was the dream. Because at that point, I'm so comfortable with the salon I'm getting, the car I'm getting,
Right, the
credit
benefits,
card.
everything, yeah.
There's no one in their right mind would ever leave, you know? But I start getting uncomfortable. No, it's not I'm getting uncomfortable. It's like I wanted extra money, right? So I have
Was there
my
a
job.
need for extra money? Did you feel like you needed more money?
I think at that point I wanted to either buy a house or just extra money, you know? I just wanted like I don't know why I wanted extra
Just
money for. Yeah.
millennial
I think I
things.
wanted to
Just,
travel
yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
I needed like just save more and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's the need for extra money,
Okay.
you know? Mm, so what happened?
So you talk about with your 6 friends who you invested in. You talk
the
about getting
Chama.
the bar. Yeah.
So when I got this initial location, I go first of all I go to my Chama guys. I sit them down on our quarterly AGM. Is it AGM? Quarterly board meeting. Let me call it that.
Right.
I sit them. Some guy comes up with a proposal. We start a kinyozi, or like who understands the kinyozi business? No one. So I tell them, listen, I understand bars, and I want to set up a bar. I think it would be successful and everything like that. And they could have bought into it, but as human beings, I think we're always scared. Even in investing, it's a scary thing. I'm going to put X amount in this. I don't know what's going to happen. So ultimately, I think they were scared, but they didn't want to tell me we're scared, right?
How much was it gonna cost? Was it going to take everything that you guys had put together?
A huge chunk. I'd
Like
say
at
a
that
huge
point,
chunk.
you estimate, how much is it gonna cost at that time? Do you
At
think?
that point, how much do we have in terms of savings? I know it was over like 2.5.
Okay.
Over. So the proposal was I use all that money, I build this bar,
And
and
then-
then yeah. These guys were like billers. Because at that point, you know, because every month 15, it's a
Yeah.
sacrifice
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So they're like, because they don't understand the business as well. So they're
Yeah.
like, mm-mm. So we have, that group was very diverse, people from different religions and everything like that. So they used the religion angle that we can't invest in that, which I fully understood.
Right.
So now I'm caught back. I'm like, what to do, right? This little cute bar that I wanted to set up first, the location rent is like 80,000 or something. As by myself, I could sustain it, but you know, you also need someone that you can do things together, right? So I go to one of my very close friends and I tell her, listen, I have a plan of opening a bar, whatever. We go to the location like twice. She's like, it's small and everything like that. And she tells me she's in this group of like entrepreneurs in Nairobi. She's like, there's different locations they share. So we go to where the current location is and we look at it. It must be the most irresponsible thing I've ever done in my life. But I signed the lease on the first day. Like we just went there and looked at the location and I remember she was telling me, just sign it, you got this. And I'm just like, do I really got this?
Wait,
So-
you're talking about where BND is
Today.
now. The,
So-
the initial one that's
Yeah.
at
Kilele Show.
yeah.
So sign the lease, right? I don't want to tell you what the rent is, but it was significantly higher than what I was planning
Initial-
to,
right.
right? So at that point, another thing is that once you sign the lease, listen, bro, there is no looking back. I had Kidogo
Did you
money
have
set.
yeah, I mean, did you have those 2-month deposits?
Yeah, that one I had.
Okay.
So you remember at this point, I have a saving
Yeah,
culture. I'm
yeah,
putting
yeah.
money on the side and
Yeah.
everything for a rainy day. So at this point, I signed the lease, and then I realized, bro, there's no looking back. There's no turning back. Now we really got to push this thing. So
Did you have the plan together?
I understood I understood the gap that the market had, and what product the market needed, and the simplicity which it needed it to be executed, with everything coming together. Because I could see, with my travels, I could see how someone would use so little resource in setting up a product, but making the maximum out of it. You know, so I understood that bit, right? Did I know any?
maybe
architects?
if we could go into that a little bit. What is it that you felt was in excess, a plethora of in terms of the nightlife in Nairobi at the time, and what's the gap that you were then coming to?
There was a
try
gap
and fill?
between, especially in Kilimani, because I was in charge of this Hurlingham Kilimani
Right.
in my employment, right?
Right.
This was the area that I was in charge of all through. So I understood there was the high-end bars where you needed to dress well, whatever, they have a dress code and everything. And then there was your locals, right? But there was no bar that played here in the middle in terms of your high-end guy feels comfortable, but even the guy that goes to a local also feels like they want to be slightly aspirational. I'll take my Khabib somewhere. There was no middle point in terms of pricing, in terms of how it looks and everything like that. That was the biggest gap I identified at that particular point. And even when we launched, you could see the clientele that you've targeted on paper is the clientele that's walking in, you know? So
Okay.
that really worked. But also with any new, because I looked at it like a startup at that point. When we launched, remember, I still have a company car,
Right.
which has a tracker and everything, and things like that. At this point,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be visiting clients,
Right.
you know? And then, you know, because my energy is focused on construction and everything like that. So my numbers at work are not,
Up to par.
yeah, because I was the leading, like, senior manager within our department. So month on month, there was like another lady. So it was always like me, her, me, her. So at this point, you can just see a dip in performance. So they're like, bro, what's happening? So my boss looks into it. He's like, it's not like him. So they really like look through everything. So they look into my car records. Where is he? This guy literally is in one spot for a month. Because they have Django guys, I have guys there building every day. So I have to be there, right?
Yeah.
Track the MOT and everything. They're like, okay, so what's your car been doing there? I tried lie. I'm like, okay, now, what did I say? I moved houses. There's something, I either moved houses. Because I can't, there's no way I can explain it, right? Don't get me wrong, I try to go above and beyond and try to see one client maybe in one day.
Right.
But every day I'm supposed to see like 7 clients.
Yeah.
I'm seeing one. So I'm doing bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
So at this point, they're like, bro, you have to literally come have a conversation with us, right? And it gets to a point where I have to leave. So when I leave the company and when B&D starts, almost I think the difference is like a week or so, right? So I realized all these benefits, all these things, bro, I gotta leave. There's no silo, there's nothing. I'm back to scratch, nothing. And this is the whole thing about the push that I've had in life. I didn't have a cushion. There was no fallback, you know? At this point, there's no rich folks, there's no guys to pick me up, there's no partner, there's no wife that'd be like, oh, babe, listen, Ngoja 3 months, I look for a job. No, as you look for a job, I got us. There was no fallback. So this product that I sacrificed this month constructing had to work.
Hold on. I have a question. I have to roll back a little bit because it sounds like you signed this lease on a whim, right? Like you go, you see the location based off of different pictures and things you've envisioned and whatever. You're like, yeah, we need to make this happen.
Yeah.
Tell me where you get the money then to do the construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's my savings.
Yeah.
At that point, did I take a facility? I think I took a facility. And it's like I knew because I was so tired in the office. I was also so tired mentally that I took a facility for subconsciously. Coming to think of it now, it's like I knew something was going to happen. So this facility was my cushion, right? But it's the same facility I used now to finance the project, but it wasn't going to be enough. So it was me, my friend, and some family members, and then still with that, we ran out of capital at some point. Then I remember, but all these things came to play. There's a guy I went to high school with, and he ran a successful bar somewhere. And I told him, listen, I'm gonna set up a bar somewhere really soon. And this was like maybe 6 months before. There's certain expertise and skills that you have that we will need on board, right? So when money runs out, I remember he was like my ace. I remember, oh, there's that guy. I call him. I'm like, bro, just come check it out. Whatever he comes, he's like, whatever you need, we got it. So we all contributed equally. That was the beautiful thing. So we're able to.
Did you not go back to the 6 guys, the chama, to be like, can I take my money
No,
out?
Chema was like, no, I did. Yes. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
I did. So I told them, listen, because things are a bit tight, let me take my contribution out.
Yeah.
And the contribution paid for a certain portion of stock because we needed to stock the place.
Right.
So it paid for a certain contribution of stock, but it wasn't enough. So what did I need to do? I had to go back to all these distributors that I managed. I built such a strong relationship with these guys. I just told them, listen, I need X amount of stock. I've opened a spot. I need your help, guys. And they're like,
It
"What's
was
up?"
that genuine,
It was
that
that
open.
genuine, that easy.
Yeah.
These guys gave me stock. They were like, whatever, listen, we wish you all the best. We'll give you 2-3 months, whatever, run. So you had all the elements to enable you become successful. It's now how do you run? And that's not the will that comes from within really pushes you. But also something that was happening throughout this whole process is I was reading books, I was reading documentaries on business and stuff. Because I did try my luck at business at some point. I wasn't really well equipped. I didn't understand all the things. So at this point, I felt like it was the right time.
Right.
I'd learned, I'd read books, I'd gone through all these things.
Right.
Yeah, so when we set it up, we started, of course, constraints. A generator now, as for any quotation, a big generator, a commercial one, is a lot of money. We didn't have it. So we started, we didn't even have money to pay DJs. A lot of DJs were relationships that I had built and we had built all through the period of my employment, and other times some were friends and still are friends till today. Just calling them, listen, I've opened a spot, would you play for me? And we've had all these gigs. A lot of guys would play, you know? So that's how we built. Even decks, we didn't have money to buy decks. And then there were guys, the guys that hire out decks, like, for a day, it's like 5 Gs. Like, that's a lot. Give us like 2.5, but we'll give you like for a month, you know? So that's how you start. And that's the key of, for me, relationships are not burning bridges, you know? I would never, till today.
So I have a question, because it sounds very, and I don't mean this in a bad way. It sounds very TED talky in the sense that you're on the other side, you're on the other side of going through all of this, and it sounds like believe in yourself. I signed a lease without without a full plan. I pulled money from here, and made all of these things happen. What's the day-to-day reality of going to EABL and being like, man, this guy may fire me because I've been spending too much time at the bar, at my construction site. I may lose my income. I've put everything into this. I have no cushion, and even running out of capital. Like, what's the day-to-day reality of that? Like, what are you going through mentally, emotionally? Are you thinking about how you're gonna pay your own personal rent, let alone the B&D rent?
Yeah. Honestly, at that point, I wasn't panicking.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I wasn't panicking. The lack of worry can either come from, at that point, a lot of naivety, which I highly doubt. But you remember, I did have that cushion in terms of the facility I took.
Yeah.
So in my head was like, listen, this thing is either going to work. If not, because I'd figured out that we're going to give it 6 months. If it doesn't work, I feel like at that particular point, I was still highly employable. Right? I still had a lot of skills. So that was always going to be my fallback. Because at that point, I'm still sending out CVs.
Okay.
I'm still sending out CVs. I'm like, application. I'm on LinkedIn almost every day. Because there's still that element, how's a year, 2 years from today going to look like, you know? So I think my answer to that, I was still highly employable. I did know a lot of skills and everything like that. So I think I was always going to find something here or there.
Okay.
You know? And from my past, like my folks will, if it really hit the fan.
Yeah.
You could always come back, you know?
Yeah.
And that's another thing, you know? Subconsciously, I think I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think it is that made B&D work? Because I'm trying to think about the first time I think I heard of or saw B&D was, I think you had a live artist. I want to say Karen, I think.
Yeah.
I want to say Karen, but I'm not sure. But and I saw this it was a reel, on Instagram, and I saw it, I was like, oh, there's a new club or a new thing that's popped up in Nairobi. And the reason I'm asking this is because, I mean, there's so many new spaces that come up, and now I see people on Twitter talking about how Nairobi restaurants, Nairobi clubs have gotten their aesthetic, and but you can't eat aesthetic, But so there's so many cool places with so many cool designs,
I agree.
and DJs are playing in and out.
Yeah.
So what is it that made B&D work that allowed you to even scale to have a Kiambu Road location, and the other things that you're thinking about? And also for the Kiambu Road location, what was the financial process for that? Like,
I think the most important thing there was, I think from yourself, it's, I think for me, I understood my strengths, right? Building a brand, identifying what it takes to set up a bar. Because like you remember, I used to sit in like meetings with bars, understanding structures, what you need to look at, how to market and stuff like that. So there was that capability, but there's also that element of I understood my weaknesses, right? My weaknesses was, to an extent at that point, relations. Relations with, let's say, officials that issue licenses and things like that. That was not one of my strengths. But one of my partner's strengths, that is one of his strengths, right? One of my partner's strengths is looking at, for example, cash flows and saying, this is what we need to do, this is what we need. I have a good understanding of it, but those are some of his strengths, amongst other things, right? There's areas which I wasn't very strong in at that particular point. A good example is the kitchen. So one is understanding how different people play into the ultimate success of an organization, right? That is one. I think number two is also understanding that things can grow gradually, right? And a good example is yesterday I visited a manufacturing plant here for a local alcoholic product, and I was telling, I think we're having this conversation earlier, is I was very impressed at seeing a product or a company start from scratch. Because I remember when this entrepreneur wanted to start, she texted me from Ghana. She was like, I want to come to Nairobi and set up a plant to make alcohol. At that point, I'm just like, a plant? How
Yeah,
are
you said
gonna
it was
do
7 years ago.
It
Yeah.
seems like it's a lot. But
Yeah.
today, I mean, that product is in every leading bar, supermarket, everywhere. But that it's taken X amount of years. And that is the journey, you know? But it does involve a lot of work, right? The amount of days where you're working until weekends counted, you know? You're working till like maybe 11 p.m. You're constantly there. You're checking on things. Things are failing. You're rebuilding them. Really looking at the cause and not hiding, right? For example, today we usually do X amount of sales, but we haven't. Why, right? And really trying to find out what the core issue is and trying to resolve that core issue, you know, and also checking out what's happening. You know, in a lot of industries, let me use an example of doctors. They always consult each other. Oh, there's this case I got today, and lawyers as well. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? In our industry, we're getting to a point where we're really embracing that, where we're having conversations like, what do you guys think of what's happening with the economy, what's happening with products? Could you recommend a good waiter? Could you recommend a good cashier? All of that. And it's also learning from each other. That's the ultimate thing that I can say that led to.
Or led to that. Okay,
Yeah.
I like what you've even said, because I want to segue into this right now and ask you about the science of making money in a bar, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, people come and they buy drinks and they pay.
Yeah.
But like, what's the science behind? And you know, obviously, not give us your actual
Yeah.
strategies for
Yeah.
B&D, but generally, like, as a bar owner, what is the science behind making money 7 days a week? Like,
Yeah.
how do you go about it?
It's not even so. There's one I'd call them a mentor, quote unquote, but they told me one thing. They're like, all you need in a bar is start with 4 days. If you can fill your spot 4 days, you should be okay. You're in a healthy space. If you can do it more than that, you're good, right? And from that, I think the initial goal was to try get 4 strategic days, right? And in all my bars now, that's ultimately the goal. Kiambu Road, Kileleshwa, Manhattan, any other project I work on in future, it's always start with that minimum of 4 days, then build on it, right? But the real people that are making money anywhere in the world, right? You look at the richest person in the world, someone is interacting with their product every second. You look at your Elon Musks, you look at your Jeff Bezos, Amazon, as we talk now, someone is placing an order to
Right.
have something delivered.
Right.
So that's where the real, I think, money comes in, right? With certain industries and hospitality, we're limited because if it's a nightclub, for example, the people are coming from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. So you're limited in terms of interaction with potential customers, right? So I understood that, but I also understood that I could maximize these 4 days. And you really you have to put yourself in your consumer's foot. Think like them. When this person walks in this day and age, it doesn't start with someone walking in. It starts with
The
where
IG,
they are.
when they search.
For example, social media,
Yeah.
conversation, wherever they're going to hear it. So the whole thing is be top of mind in your target market's head, right? A good example, we're in your office now. You have X amount of employees. On a Friday evening, they've worked and everything like that. How do you get to convince them from their desk? We're going to go for a drink. How do you get to convince them? The first place we think about going is my spot. So I'd call it psychology or marketing, starts way before. And it's communication and building a relationship with these people. So by the time they get to your spot, that's when the transactional relationship evolves. So they've walked in, one box ticked, you've got them in, right? Box two is how do I get them to spend, right? Because as human beings, we all have, let's say you earn, hypothetically, you earn 30,000, right? Within that 30,000, if you were to divide this 30,000 you earn per product, your bank takes X amount, your telecom takes X amount, your landlord takes X amount, your telecom company takes X amount, all your fuel company takes X amount, and ultimately there, us as hospitality players want to take X amount, you know? So you got to look at it like that. So how am I going to make sure this guy spends 1,000, 2,000, whatever at my spot?
Okay. So essentially, it sounds like, I mean, the way that you make your most money is trying to figure out how do you keep this person, well, how do you get this person in the door? And then once they're there, how do you keep them here for as long as possible and
Yeah.
have them spend as much money
Yeah.
as possible?
Yeah.
Is there any, do you ever have any conscious, as your conscience, so to
Yeah,
speak,
yeah.
conflict of the negative effects of alcohol
Yeah.
and people, getting too drunk or
Yeah.
all the other negative connotations that come with
Yeah.
with that? Yeah.
I mean, subconscious is always going to be negative connotation, but how do you handle that? So,
Yeah.
for example, in all my spots, right, I've partnered with an alcohol supplier, and there's a campaign that we've run called "Drink More Water," as an example, and that is subconsciously telling the customer, listen, it gets to a point now you just need to drink more water, and also in all of our communication, there's an element of enjoy responsibly, drink responsibly, because at the end of the day, you've had a long day. You've come here to sort of like let loose a little bit, but we also want you to get home safe. You know? Wake up tomorrow, continue back to work, and everything like that. And that's why you will see even larger companies running campaigns like "Don't drink and drive," "Drink more water," responsible drinking, enjoy responsible drinking. So to our granular level, we communicate that on a daily basis. You know, and I've trained my staff to get to a point where they're like, listen, if a customer is too intoxicated, you don't sell more to them. But also at the same time, we have complimentary bottles of water that would always come out, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's, as you talk about staff, I want to ask, because I hear this about, I guess, people in retail, just the level of pilferage, within this
Yeah,
space.
that is wild. You can literally cry.
Yeah. What's
So
Yeah.
with any industry, yesterday I was having a conversation with a banker, senior director in a bank, and he was telling me yesterday there's a guy who works for them that, how much did he say? In some way was able to get away with a lot of money. I won't mention the figure.
Yeah.
But it just brings you to the point of any industry. There's always going to be that point of, I don't want to call it theft, but pilferage, right?
Yeah.
So for us, we've tried as much as possible to create systems and everything like that. Mystery shoppers, have random checks and everything like that. So you'll get those one-off occasions and numerous occasions, but it's a never-ending challenge to try to minimize that percentage as much as possible. When you look at it from a P&L perspective, okay, we look at the allowance we have. Next month, what are we going to do? Is it reducing? Is it increasing? Yeah.
So it's like it's also like I guess like piracy. It's a never ending battle and trying to keep ahead of the curve,
It's
so to
tough.
speak.
It's never ending, but you always have to try keep ahead of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Try to keep ahead of it.
Sounds like I don't know. Sounds like a I don't know, like an interesting industry
Yeah.
industry to be in. Would you say that it's simple?
It's not simple.
Yeah.
But what makes it simple is I enjoy it, and I know a lot about it. Let me give you an example. If I was to set up a trading company today, I wouldn't know where to begin. But I've built so much knowledge, time, and energy, understanding hospitality, and understanding the spirits industry and business. So it just comes natural for me. I see a problem, I know how to solve it, right? If I don't know how to, I'll go to someone, help me solve this problem.
Okay. Were you able to make your money immediately? Because, I guess when they talk about getting the journey of entrepreneurship and being ready to not pay yourself for 2 years, is that a journey that you went through with B&D, or were you able to?
It's tough even today.
Yeah.
I mean, as the business owner, you pay yourself last. And sometimes you have obligations and stuff like that, but you have to pay yourself after everyone pays themselves. So sometimes you skip, sometimes you miss. Initially, we had to go a while, but for us to also be motivated, there was that element of we need to pay ourselves X amount, right? But also one thing that drives me is I'm in a group of entrepreneurs, older people, mentors, advisors that are significantly more successful than me. So I can always see how like what the next level always looks like, at least for me. And that's really what keeps pushing me every day, you know?
Okay, interesting. So even now, you're saying that there are some months where you're like, okay, if there's certain obligations
Yeah,
that need to be met,
100%.
you met that. So how do you then meet your, as Anthony's, how do you meet your obligations during those months where
Yeah.
you can't get a salary?
I mean, now that was
Yeah, right.
initial, right?
Right.
So there's certain things like you have your salary, and then maybe there's a quarterly bonus, dividend,
Right.
full year dividend. So those are some of the things that, depending on the performance of the organization,
Right.
we can decide we're not going to pay ourselves a bonus,
Right, right.
And it happens with any organization, depending
Right.
on how you perform. Salaries, there's an allocation for
Right,
it, right?
right.
So that in most cases I don't miss, but the bonuses sometimes I can go with, depending on performance.
Right.
It's your individual performance, but also organizational performance.
Okay. And if you're looking at, I guess, whether you can achieve this success in other markets, because I know you've talked about possible expansion. When
Yeah.
you're looking at that, how different is it, for example, if you were to open something in Mombasa? Like,
Right.
how different is it from the one here? How different is the Kiambu Road one from the
Yeah.
one that's in Kileleshwa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a good example is Kiambu Road really was set up out of the basis of a lot of the challenges we had in Kileleshwa. So sound, parking, those predominant ones, limited seating. So that's what really developed that one. So with any market that I think of expanding to, even like, for example, Manhattan that I own on Mombasa Road, with that particular one, it was based off a lot of things, right? That one, the whole thing is we needed to build that thing in like a month, you know? So depending on where I go, whether it's Mombasa, Kampala, Dar es Salaam, you need to understand the local culture first and the gap that is there, right? If it's the coast, it needs to be very comfortable for someone, I think in a tropical sort of like area and things like that. And the selling points, is it beachfront? Is it by the road? So there are all these elements that have to sort of come together for you to develop a conducive and profitable product.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is all your money in B&D? Or do you have anything else elsewhere?
So my main investments is B&D, yes. There's Manhattan. Like I said, I'm developing an e-commerce platform called Front Door, which facilitates very timely delivery.
Oh, this is
of
actually
goods.
going to go out on 29th January. So
Yeah.
from 3 days from now, you said it's going to be in the new year, right? 2020,
In the
2024.
new year.
Yeah. Okay.
It's going to be the new year. So that's what I'm working on now. But there's also these small investment portfolios, like money markets that I put my money in and stuff like that. Nothing too significant. But the whole thing as well is the core of it. If you have believability and if you have a product that you understand to sell, you can always use other people's money. You don't need yours.
Okay.
As long as you have the vision and everything, you can always. There's a lot of people willing to back potential successful businesses.
Yeah.
So utilizing other people's income and money is also a way to go.
Okay. Last question. With all of these, I guess, very asset-heavy business ventures that you have, you know, and a lot of money you had to put in, do you have a positive net worth, when at the end of the day you're looking at all the people you potentially owe, all the things you potentially owe against how much money you have right now?
Yeah.
Do you have a positive net worth?
It's funny enough you'd ask me that.
Yeah.
'Cause, so one of my advisors sat me down the other day. They're like, listen, you need to calculate how much you are worth. And we did the math and everything like that. And it was surprising to me, because the thing that moves me is always creating and creating and creating. So when we did the math and everything, it was positive. I'm not going to mention it, but
Yeah.
it was positive.
Right.
all I can say, it was positive, and it was. There's certain things I didn't know how to quantify and everything like that. So, but it was a rough figure, but it was quite positive to be
Okay.
honest.
So positive net worth.
Yeah, that's the least I can say. Positive net worth.
Okay. Thanks so much, Anthony. Thanks for
you.
coming to tell
Thank
us
you so much for having
the
me.
story of B&D, how B&D came together. You didn't answer this one. So for the second Kiambu, the Kiambu Road branch, did you have to get a facility for that, or did you?
We had
you
to
know,
get financing.
Yeah, you had to get financing for that
Because
as well.
you already have proof of a product or a concept working.
Yeah.
There's a bit of it that we did finance ourselves, but there's also a lot of financing that we came, and also relationships. So it's built on a lot of steel. It's built a lot of. There's an architect we worked with, a lot of goodwill. Until today, it's also in the books in terms of people that we owe.
Yeah.
So it's now, how do we push this thing and continue paying these people? So, like I said, leveraging on relationship, that's bank relationships, VCs, and also different individuals that have different skills.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final question. A bar in Kilimani, Kileleshwa, how much would an average bar be making if you're doing well? How much should that bar be
I
making?
don't know. No, to be honest, you know what? Why I answer?
Give me an
answer that.
average. Give me a maximum and a lower amount. Where you're like, if you're making that, pull up your socks. And if you're making this, like, yeah,
It's
you're in a
that
good
one.
space.
To be honest, the range is ridiculous. The range is ridiculous. It could range all the way from 100,000 shillings and could reach all the way to the millions. The range is too big because you have to look at the classification of bars, right? There's your nyama joint. There's your high energy bar. The classification is ridiculous.
Let's talk about a bar like B&D. Like B&D, that kind of clientele. That's who you're looking for. You're set up somewhere in Kilimani, Kileleshwa. For maybe someone who's trying to be a competitor or whatever the case is.
Honestly, it varies. it does vary. To be honest, it does vary.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Because from when we started to when it's fully developed and everything, it's never been stable. There's some months you're just like we can barely keep the lights open. There's some months we can afford a bonus. So it really does vary, and it's also a seasonal business, right?
Right.
With the peak periods being April and December, so these are the months. Maybe the peak pays for these other months. So it's a very seasonal business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most amount of money you've made in a day as B&D. Can you disclose that or give us a range? Like in a would it be a night or a day where you are like, okay, this is insane.
It was years ago. Okay, to answer that question, my goal when I was starting off and the dream of setting up a bar was initially, you remember the cute bar I was talking about?
Right.
My goal was to make 50,000 a day. That was my personal goal.
Okay.
I can confidently say there's some days like a Monday, that's what you make, to be honest. There's some peak days like a Friday, Saturday, that it looks like it's very minimal,
Yeah.
So you make significantly more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd assume you're making significantly more than that.
I'd assume so. But at the same time, when you look at how that amount is broken down, whatever you're remaining
it's a
with is
margins,
also,
it's
a
all about the
margins
margins.
game.
Yeah.
It's a margins game. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not the people that are there.
Yeah.
It's a margins game.
Because you might have lots of people and one person on the table is the person who's actually buying drinks.
That's true.
Fair enough. All right, that is the story of B&D. Thank you so much, Antony, for coming. I've enjoyed this conversation. I didn't know all the actual employment that you had.
No, it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Yeah. And I think just a true testament to understanding the business case and the cash before you actually get in.
Yeah.
And a successful one at that. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. We're going into the new year. Go to B&D and celebrate the new year.
100%.
And we'll see you guys in the new year and on the next episode.